Hey Spuddies, Potatomcwhiskey here, and welcome to Let's Play Imperator Rome. Or Imperator Rome. I'm not really sure what the correct pronunciation of this is. I will, however, say that this is a pre-release video, so there may be a patch on day one. I don't know. Some of the things might be changed when you get your hands on the games, and some of the bugs or whatever. And, you know, this is a pre-release version of the game, so things might be different from the release. And also, Paradox very kindly gave me access to this game early. Huge shout out to Paradox for that. They are such superb, awesome dudes. I'm not gonna lie, I am totally addicted to Imperator Rome. I have put like 60 hours into it since I got access to it, and I'm really excited to now, I mean, a lot of those hours were me kind of just like restarting the game over and over and figuring things out. So I had a few different ideas that I wanted to do, and I ran a few test games just to kind of get the hang of the mechanics and see what we could do. So there's actually quite a bit of stuff we can try to do. I had the idea of trying to unite the United Kingdom. I had an idea of, you know, playing as Rome and seeing how fast we could expand. I had the idea of maybe playing as Egypt and seeing how far we could expand. That could be a lot of fun. I had the idea of playing as Moria and trying to unite all of India under one banner. But I think out of all those options, I was kind of like, I was torn between playing Rome to kind of show you the base gameplay, or maybe playing like Macedon and showing you that. But I think, you know, it's Imperator Rome. I feel like I almost have to play Rome for my very first game, you know? So we'll jump right in as Rome, although I really want to do some interesting playthroughs up here in the UK, because you can do some really fun stuff up here. But yeah, let's jump in as Rome and we'll get started. It's the game's namesake. You kind of have to play them, don't you? Okay. So I do have the UI scaled a little bit down just so we can fit more stuff onto the screen. So if things look a little bit small or difficult to read, that's probably why, because normally it should totally look like this. See if I can get it to do it. Yeah, normally it should look like this, which is quite a bit bigger. Game kind of feels like it was built for larger than 1080p screens, but it also fits really well on 1080p screens. If you just scooch it down, it has kind of a similar size to the EU4 UI, whereas I kind of feel like the default UI is a little bit big. So here's for the Republic. We are Rome, of all things. We have one army of 15,000 cohorts that has 5,000 archers, 5,000 heavy infantry, and 5,000 light cavalry. We'll have to there's a lot of things to talk about and get to and explain and show off. But for the moment, the very first thing is we are going to go through our pop-ups up here. We have the lack of a commander on our land army here. So let's have a look here. We'll click this change commander button. And we'll kind of go through and explain all the various UI elements as we interact with them. So you can see here, this is the character Marcus Fulvius Curvus. He is 43 years old. He's 8 martial, 4 social power, oratory, and zeal. I can't remember what they're all called, but basically those are his points, right? He has a bit of money, he has some traits, and so on and so forth. And I think if I scroll down, some of these guys, yeah, right here, this guy has the crafty personality, which means he's much better at taking slaves, although he does have corruption. He also has the coward, which means his army is quite weak in morale compared to a normal army. But we're going to go ahead and take the civic faction guy here. That's what this little symbol means. And that's because this is my leader. That's what that little golden coin there means. Is this is my leader and he has the same faction. So hopefully by making this guy prominent and popular, it'll increase the popularity of my own faction. He has 10 prominence, which is basically a measure of you know, his importance in the empire, how well known he is. His popularity is how well he is liked by the populace. And his loyalty is how happy he is with the current ruling government or person in power, right? And if his loyalty drops too low, he'll get a little bit upset and won't be too happy with you. And this is his corruption. Corruption has various different effects. I can kind of show you down here. It increases the amount of money he makes per month. And it also increases how much he sort of subscribes to the populist government faction. So we're going to go ahead and pick Publius Cornelius Arvinia because he has 8 martial, which is a pretty decent amount. To kind of think of it as like military pips for generals in EU4. So we have our first army set up here. Now, our navy also lacks a commander. I'm going to pick a slightly lower commander score here. Perhaps the populist faction guy here. No, we'll take Lucius Julius Lebo. He seems pretty loyal, and he's also a part of a scorned family, which means if we assign him a generalship, he will actually make some money. And by being a general, he will make some money and hopefully be less of a scorned person. We have, of course, many different families inside of our realm. And if a family is not making a certain amount of money from having government-appointed jobs, they will get upset with you. And these families will expand and contract a number of people inside of them as people get married and all that sort of stuff. Why aren't you married, actually? I'm quite surprised by that. So we have a couple of other pop-ups here. The Scorned Family one, we can't really get rid of this because there's so many Scorned families. It's a bit more relevant when you're a bit of a smaller nation. It's a little bit easier to deal with that. But basically, some of our families are going to be losing loyalty because they don't have any jobs. We're going to go in here and have a look at our inventions. Right now, this is our technology screen. This is tech points. We get these over time, which build up to give us martial, civic, and oratory and religious advances, which give us particular benefits. I think martial gives you morale. You can see there, every martial advance gives you morale. It increases the cost of your army and makes military traditions cheaper to take. It also unlocks new inventions. One of them would give me supply limit, siege ability, and heavy infantry discipline. So I think I have 200 civic power to start with here. So let's have a look around. I don't know if I will take military artisans. I don't think I need that. I have a 100% bonus already towards my tech gain. National commerce income wouldn't be terrible. National tax, national tribesman output. I don't think I have a whole lot of tribesmen as Rome, so I don't know if that's super useful. Improve opinion can actually be very useful for maintaining allies and getting open borders and stuff with people. A diplomatic reputation feels really good. I really like omen power. So I'm going to grab omen power and fabricate claim cost, because that should make it a little bit easier to fabricate claims as we go through the game. I'm also going to go in here, and this is our religion screen. We are Hellenic religion. Here is our stability. Stability gives you all sorts of benefits and you can increase it. Here's our war exhaustion. You can decrease it using military power, all that sort of jazz. And you can see here that our religious unity is 98.3%. And yeah. Here is our omen power, which is how powerful all of these things that we pick are. And here is our omen duration, which shows how long these omens last for. So I think for our first omen, we are going to probably take... We have plenty of manpower. We have a decent amount of income. So I'm thinking... I think we go for... I guess we could go for discipline, but we shouldn't really have much of a trouble. I'm going to go for the Blessing of Ceres. Oh, there's some people outside shouting. Let me close my window. Good God. There's always people shouting. And I love how they were completely quiet the entire day until I actually started recording, which is my favorite part. Okay. So we have our legion here. We kind of need to start picking what we want to do. So we could manage some internal politics. We don't have any worries right now. So I think we should continue to look towards expanding Rome. And I think it makes a lot of sense to try to expand into our initial area here, Italia and Magna Graecia. So let's have a look around. Do we have claims on you? All right, I can't start a war until November. We are already importing grain here. So let's go to, I think speed 3 is a good speed to start off with, and we can kind of talk about things. I know it took us 10 minutes to get to gameplay, but this is a brand new game, and so there's a little bit of explanation that needs to go on as to why I'm doing things. Actually, the very first thing we are going to do is we're going to recruit an army of Velites. And I'll fill them out in a moment. Okay, so 1st of November. I don't have a Casus Belli against these guys. So who could we go to war with? Let's have a look. I think we're going to go to war with Samnium here. So let's fabricate a claim on them. And we will fabricate on the province of Campania. And we'll begin moving our army down here. We have a few vassals, which will help us out in this war. It'll make things a little bit easier for us. And here is our army of Velites. I'm going to add another 8-score general here of the religious faction. And we are going to recruit to this army. I just like to do it this way. Velites, so I need to talk about combat here. Velites are sort of very cheap units that aren't very, very good at doing much, but they don't take much attrition, so they're good for sieging down holdings, and they're also very, very cheap. So I think my goal here is to use a mixture of Velites and archers to make a relatively cheap army for sieging that won't take too much attrition. It'll also be very useful. This army will be for when we're conquering these German areas, because the supply limit, if I go to the supply map mode and click on this guy, you can see this sort of heavy infantry force is going to have a hard time making its way through these areas over here. Whereas if I build up a force of light infantry, I think we're going to do a mixture of, say, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 light infantry total, so that's 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 archers in total as well, with so that's that many, and then we'll add 1, 2, 3, 4 horsemen as a flanking force, and so it'll take a bit of time for them to build up. And the idea here is this is going to be our main shock army that sort of hits hard. And then this is going to be a much lighter sort of hit and run kind of force. Defensive League from Sabinia. Now, I'm not going to take any of that because I'm basically strong enough to kill everyone in this area. And so we're going to get started with Samnium when the time comes. I'm going to wait for the second army to be built up. You can see all my forces are kind of consolidating together. Oh, I guess I could have just waited. And I would have gained claims on Tuscia. So where's Tuscia? Tuscia is up here. Etruria is here. Apuleia is... Apulia is down here. Lusitania is there, and Picenum is up here. Yeah, I guess I could have just waited, and I would have picked up claims for all these territories and not had to spend my oratory power. Oh well. What I will be doing is I'll be promoting some freemen in Rome, ideally. Because I want them to be citizens, because citizens provide the research resource. So maybe I will promote a few of these citizens. 1, 2, do a few of those, because I want to get my technology up to a really, really high level, because we're going to be expanding pretty rapidly, which means our tech level is going to be suffering. So you can see here, this army is 16,000 troops, but it only has a supply weight of 12, whereas this army is 15,000 troops and has a supply weight of 17, because the heavy infantry take up more supply than the other troops. Anyway, let's go ahead and get this war started. Oh, right. I do have to try and get the Senate on my side. So let's see here. So if we declare war, the military faction will gain some seats. So what I could do, instead of taking tyranny, I don't have the oratory power. I'm going to take the tyranny and declare the war. So this is going to cost me 5 tyranny, and we'll explain tyranny in a bit. But basically, because I declared the war, without the Senate's approval, they're kind of like, wow, this guy's kind of a tyrant and a piece of crap, so we don't want to listen to him anymore, and we shouldn't have to listen to him. So basically, this makes my people a little bit unhappy and makes my generals a little bit disloyal, but it does increase your slave output, and the imprison and execute cost actions are reduced. But here we go, we're going to be starting a battle, so we need to talk about combat. Each individual type of unit in the game has different stats and abilities. For example, archers here, they have a morale damage taken ability of plus 25%. That means they take more morale damage for every day of combat. We also have the heavy infantry, who have a morale damage of minus 10%, and then the cavalry just have no bonus for that. And so you can see the unit has all these different stats. It has a lower attrition rate. It does normal damage against archers. It does less damage to camels. It does the same damage to chariots. You can kind of get an idea what a unit is good against. These guys do reasonably well against most things, but they do really, really well against infantry. So that's pretty cool. Heavy infantry, on the other hand, have a couple of weaknesses. They take they're more likely to take attrition because they're heavier, they have a high attrition rate. They're also really strong against most things, with the exception of archers. Archers tend to do really well against archers are what I would call cost effective against heavy infantry. So if you're having trouble with somebody who has a lot of heavy infantry, it might be a good move to take archers. Now the archers will lose to the heavy infantry, but they will be cost effective because the heavy infantry doesn't have any particular bonuses against archers. Heavy infantry though are really, 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 really good. They're really, really good against chariots, heavy cavalry, and light infantry. That's where they all kind of like show themselves off. So if you're using a lot of light infantry, so for example this army here, I really wouldn't want to fight any heavy infantry. Light infantry are mostly sort of cheap units that you can use to siege down stuff, which is the goal of this guy, and it's mainly also for fighting barbarians. This is what this army is for. I also need to talk about, there's another thing, the deployment order. So for example, in this army, I want to deploy the archers, and then I want to deploy the light infantry, and then I want to deploy the light cavalry. In fact, actually, I want to do light cavalry and then light infantry. And that's so the light cavalry is kind of not quite on the flanks. The archers are holding the middle, so that they'll be fighting any heavy infantry that we run into. So we're going to be engaging in a battle. So that's the battle order: archers, heavy infantry, flanking. We also have some other stuff. For example, there's some special abilities up here that we don't need to talk about just right yet, but we do have, for example, the different military tactics that we can choose and how effective they are. This number over here shows how effective you are at using a strategy, and this shows which units are contributing to the effectiveness of that strategy, and then over here is showing which strategies you will be strong against and which ones you will be weak against. So for example, you can see here the shock action does extra damage to the envelopment action. The moose beats the wolf, and it'll show here on the wolf that it's weak to the shock action, but it does really well against the rabbit one, and the rabbit is strong against the hyena, but the hyena is strong against the turtle, and the turtle is strong against the shock. So you can kind of see that there's a bit of a what is the word? There's not like a rock paper scissors, but there's kind of a, you know, a counter system, the strategy you can pick. So for this particular strategy, I'm going to go with the skirmishing action. The skirmishing action is pretty unique because it actually reduces the casualties that you take when you use it. So hopefully we'll be able to just do a lot of morale damage and force them out of the fight. Okay, apparently they just have no morale, and were basically instantaneously stack wiped because they weren't prepared for war, which is totally fine too. I guess we'll take that. wasn't the outcome that I was expecting. And same thing happened kind of there. These guys weren't ready for combat at all. Hopefully we'll be able to get an actual combat going here. So you can see, I know it's only a single unit, but you can hover over stuff to see what they're doing. So they were using the deception tactic. I was using the shock tactic with this army. You can kind of see the overview of the units and how they deployed. As you can see, I thought I had said the light infantry to go outside, but looks like the light infantry deployed in a different way. No, I think I want light cavalry on the flanks and light infantry on the second row. I think that works a little bit better. And so you can see my allies are moving in and, you know, basically sieging down all these unfortified provinces. Fort sieging works exactly like it does in Europa Universalis 4. We are taking attrition from sitting on these forts. We probably don't need to sit our entire stacks on it. Like, we could almost certainly detach a siege. There is a button for that. I could detach a siege, but I like to sit my units on it. As long as I'm only taking 1% attrition, I'm actually okay with this, even if it is kind of burning a little bit of my manpower. But yeah, since we've basically beaten their armies, at least the main portion of it, we're just going to go up to a higher speed and wait for these sieges to tick down, because that's the only real thing. Although this guy doesn't need to stand here and take attrition with me. Looks like a child has been born, which is pretty cool. So red-handed, the Pomponius Sulpicius Saviero discovered stealing gold from the national treasury, so we're going to have him flogged, I think. So we won the siege of Corneliani. I know I'm running out of money, but don't worry about that. And we took some slaves when we conquered it. We took 1 to Roma, 1 to Luciera, and 2 to Capua. You can see over here, now Capua, if we go in here, has 2 extra slaves of the Sabellan culture. Over here, if we go to the culture map mode, you can see that the culture, it's kind of hard to see, but the culture in here is Sabellan. If I can show that on this province, is Sabellan. And those slaves were basically taken randomly from the population of this province and then distributed over here. And slaves are how you get money. So we basically just stole 4 pops from them, and it's a pretty cool mechanic that you get to steal pops from other people when you go to war with them, because it means even if you don't actually technically win the war, if you manage to siege them down a bunch and they don't manage to siege you back, you actually kind of come out ahead and you've hurt their nation for the next war. So it looks like somebody wants to buy wood off of me from the province of Campania, and because I will be exporting this, my triremes will get a boost, and I'll also earn half a ducat a month. I'm going to go ahead and take that deal. I'm also going to accept this peace. I'm going to take all of their provinces, and I'm going to take all of their gold. I'll take a chunk of aggressive expansion here, and we will become a regional power. So there's a lot to talk about here. We just increased the size of our empire significantly by taking these guys over. Now that does mean our technology rate has dropped as a result. The Latin local power, we are now a regional power over here. So we can have an extra import to our capital. We get extra diplomatic relations. We have a higher diplomatic range, and our government bonus multiplier goes up. The government bonus multiplier is something I didn't really talk about, and I need to kind of sort it out. We can kind of have national ideas over here. We'll sort those out later, maybe. I think I will take... I think morale of armies is really good to take, so we're going to grab that one first. And this is because we eradicated a country, we get to choose what to do with their own personal characters that were in that country. So for example, we could imprison the leaders and let the rest escape. We could decide what we want to do on a family by family basis. This is so, for example, if I was, say I was conquering a Lepontic culture over here, I could sort of take one of the Lepontic families into my culture, and then use them as governors of this province, so that the people who live in this province are a little bit happier because their governor is of their culture. On the other hand, we can just grab some popularity or reduce our aggressive expansion by banishing the important characters and putting the rest of the characters to the sword. And that's the one I like to do just to get my aggressive expansion down, because aggressive expansion has some negative effects on the wrong culture, and it also reduces the loyalty of your little feudatory vassals over here with like these guys. Okay, so we still have some claims left. I'd like to declare war on these guys and take over all of these provinces in here. So that's probably going to be what we do next. Let's get our armies into position. We did manage to significantly just increase our population to, we're up to 533 population now. Looks like a couple of people want to buy some more goods. This is going to make my army cheaper, which is great. And this is going to even further reduce it. Awesome. Let's have a look at a regional by region breakdown. Looks like focusing on trade is the big thing for now. Now, in my capital, I need more of this oratory power to change these policies if I want, but that'll be something we look into when we have finished consolidating. Okay, looks like a bunch of people want to buy things from me. I'm going to just accept them all. So I have claims on this guy too. Let me have a look at who your allies are. Yeah, I feel like if I declare war on you, I'll get most of this territory for myself, which would be great. So let's declare war. Now the Senate, again, is not too happy about this. I don't have the oratory power to demand my changes to the government to increase the popularity of the civic faction, although that would give me tyranny. So unfortunately, the Senate is not super behind this move here. But we're going to force it through again because we need to expand. This will cause more tyranny, but it's pretty important that we do this. So the tyranny now is up to a pretty high level, which is totally fine. This is my light infantry stack. We're going to use skirmishing to reduce the amount of damage we take, because this is a more lighter army that's more suited to skirmish combat. Looks like they didn't have their military maintenance up high, so we managed to start this combat with a huge advantage because they're not going to have much in the way of things. So you can see we can hover over here. Let's let a day pass. Let's see here. Bipartisan support. Some issues tend to divide the House, and none more than foreign policy. While there's a debate, the Council offers support a large part of the public. So I can get the populist faction on my side. I'm worried about the extra support for the populists. But we can see here, if I let a day pass, you can see the damage being done. So my archers are doing actually slightly less damage than theirs because I have a slightly worse roll here. I rolled, or rather, I have a penalty. But we have a wider army, so we're flanking them effectively. And they had no morale, so we wiped them out pretty quick. That's why it's important to not actually lower your army maintenance, I find, in this game. There's some other really unique mechanics here. You see this little hand? That means that this particular regiment of cavalry or infantry or whatever is actually personally loyal to this commander. And what that means is he takes over paying for half of their costs. You can see here, paying loyal cohorts button right there. The paying royal cohorts button there is because he's personally paying the wages, half of the wages of these soldiers to keep them loyal, which in fact means that we're paying less in effective. We're like the nation of Rome is effectively paying less for essentially the same army strength. However, this does have an effect on his loyalty, as you can see here. Loyal cohorts, generals who have large armies that are loyal to them and not to the country, will tend to want to get started with some civil wars and all that sort of jazz. So we've got a couple of forts to siege down here as well. It should be done pretty quick. I'm going to just park my armies on them and get them sieging. Hopefully my allies will take care of all these little stacks over here, acting independently. Looks like they're going to get their asses kicked. Looks like some people want to buy some stuff from me. Oh, and that's right. My capital can import a new resource. I think I'd like to import grain or something. Ideally, it would be precious metals. Let's see. Is there anyone around? Apulia. What if I sent you a gift? I would like to import precious metals because precious metals will increase the happiness of my citizens. And citizens, when they're happier, they produce more technology points. I guess I'm going to have to improve opinion with you guys. So I probably just will import something else random, like, let's have a look. What do we have in here? I guess I could import wood, maybe? No. What about horses? No. Olives? Could I import olives? I could. And this would give me some slave happiness across my empire. So because we are importing olives into our capital, we get plus 5% slave happiness across my empire. And also because the olives are present in the capital as a province of itself gets an extra 2% happiness. So if I go into my slaves, for example, in this province, you can see they're getting plus 7.5% from the olives import, whereas over here in this province, they're only getting the 2... Oh, these guys are already exporting olives. Hold on, let me see if I can find it. All of these provinces have olives in them, damn it. Over here, right, you can see these guys are only getting the... actually, they're getting the both. Well, okay, wait, what? Whatever, I'm confused, right? It's fine. Listen, I thought I understood how things work. Sometimes when you click the button, they don't work the way that you think they do. So we're just sieging this stuff down. You're actually taking a lot of attrition here, which is bad. I think I'm going to accept that attrition here because this is almost done. But that's a pretty rough amount of attrition compared to normal. So we siege that down. Let's go ahead and take care of some of these smaller armies. You can see my archers are doing most of the early fighting. Which is fine. I might actually go ahead and make my heavy infantry the main fighting force here. Although the enemy tends to have his archers as like the mainline unit, and heavy infantry are kind of weak to archers. Publius the consul has gained the trait depressed, so that your people can kind of gain traits as well, which is going to hurt my charisma and finesse, which means I'm going to get less of these monarch points up here, which kind of sucks. But thankfully we are a republic, so we can elect and all that sort of jazz. We can get rid of the rulers who aren't very good. Oh dear, there are some sieges over here. Let's send our heavy infantry up to deal with this. And I guess he also gained arrogant. You get up there. In fact, you're probably going to have to fight this much larger stack. Hold on, let me get rid of some of these pop-ups. So a gift horse has been sent to me. Let's see. So this would mean I owe a favor to the military faction, but I get a bunch of manpower. I'll take that. And it looks like we won another siege, and we get some slave pops out of that. See, I think... Yeah, this is mostly archers. So we're going to go ahead and fight that. Because we have units that counter archers, the cavalry, and the heavy infantry do quite well against them. Whereas we do really, really well against light infantry. So this is a good fight for us to take. See if we can't chase this army down. Let's slow things down a little bit. So we're going to try and get this guy. And the battle has begun over here. And you can see our archers do extra damage versus light infantry. You can see it's the third line there below the all modifiers. So we're doing 34 damage, 34 casualties per day, taking and doing 0.32 morale, whereas they're doing 9 and 0.12. So we're completely obliterating them essentially. And that should reflect in the casualty numbers. You see the casualty numbers are much higher than them because our troops are of a higher quality. And then over here, sort of similar things happening. We just had way more units and of a higher quality, so that's always good. So, I'm going to send my light army over here to deal with this. I'm going to give these guys 1 month of recovery before I attack this army that's trying to unsuccessfully siege down that province. And it looks like my allies have decided that they want to take care of that too. But yeah, I'm going to bring my light army over here to start sieging this down with my ally, because they're going to take too much attrition. You need 5,000 troops for every level of fort you're up against. So I'm going to see if I can get these guys to park in on this province, sort of as a supporting position. Actually, right here into Rome would be better. Is this a coastal? No, it's not a coastal fortress. I also need to maybe start building up my trireme fleet. So yeah, let's go ahead and expand this to, what's my largest army? 16? Yeah, so we want to build this up. We'll go up to 8 for now. We will eventually work our way up to 16 over time. We also want to expand our army. We want to get another stack of units. Are you safe to go here? You should be. You're only taking 1 tick per month attrition. Now what I could do is I could assume control of the siege and then order an assault, but this is a level 2 fort and we have plenty of time, so we're just going to suffer the attrition through and through and make our way through this. We got a food shortage which hurts defenders. We are taking, of course, attrition here. We have a lot of troops here. Probably too many. In fact, I could probably pull you guys off. There's no sense taking that extra attrition if my allies are sieging it down. Yeah, let them pile in all their units and lose their manpower. Looks like somebody wants to buy this. This is going to lower my heavy infantry discipline bonus from 10% to 5% because instead of it being a surplus in my capital bonus, it's an export bonus. However, this will also give me 0.47 ducats per month, and I will go ahead and take that. Just need this to flip. I want to try and take all of this territory in this war. That would be the ideal situation. I could get military access and sneak around. So the gods of war, this would give us morale of armies for 50 religious power, cohort recruit speed. So Vulcan, Mars, Neptune, or we can say we don't need the help. I'm going to go with the god of Mars because the reduction of war exhaustion is always really, really nice. Anytime you can bring war exhaustion down is great, because right now we actually have a little bit of unrest from conquering these provinces. You can kind of see it down here, and that's going to hurt the loyalty of the province. The more unrest you have in a province, the more disloyal it becomes. Most of it is currently coming from a combination of war exhaustion and unhappy pops. So unfortunately, the person we were importing grain from basically told us to go screw ourselves. And also, I have enough points now to complete my military, my government ideas. So I'm going to go in here. I could take state religion, which would increase the civilization of my country. But this is a military thing. So if I match all of the ideas to these symbols, I will get a bonus of each sort of monarch point power type thing. I will get an extra 2 of each a month, which is actually quite a bit. And I also get some monthly loyalty and some national freeman happiness. So for military ideas, I'm actually going to take trireme cost. I had actually meant to take this before I built a navy. It's a bit late now. But this will make my triremes not only cheaper to build, but also cheaper to maintain because the maintenance cost of your units is based on their construction cost. Over here, we're going to pick up an oratory power. I really like corruption because it reduces the corruption of every person in your empire, which means you can do a lot more stuff like bribing. The other one that's really good is loyalty. It keeps your generals and stuff really, really, really loyal. And I'm not so sure if Hospitium is amazing. It actually is pretty good if you have a lot of vassals because it means it's easier to diplomatically annex them. So this one is actually not too bad, but I personally really like the corruption one, so I'm going to go ahead and grab that. And then I will grab improve opinion maximum here from the invention screen, and that will sort of serve the purpose of that. So now, for example, if I were to go into one of my vassals here, and I were to improve opinion with them, I have to wait till I have enough points. But basically, it used to be able to go up to 100. Oh dear. And now it can go up to 120 because, you know, It just makes that a little bit easier to diplomatically annex them, because kind of like in the in EU4 and stuff like that. Actually, I want to go into battle here. So this is mostly archers and light infantry, so we shouldn't have too much trouble taking this out. Although their commander is slightly better, our troop quality is way higher. And you can see here, our heavy infantry are going up against light infantry. Even though they outnumber us in terms of quantity, we're also doing the skirmishing stance, and they're on the bottleneck. So that means they are doing less damage to us, and we are doing more damage because we have an advantage. So there's a lot of stuff feeding in here, and plus we have a slight discipline advantage. So our troop quality and tactics advantage, and just generally a lot of other stuff is going to win the day here. Really depends on the rolls though. But as long as we're rolling relatively evenly, I should take a lot less casualties and kill a lot more. And there you can see it. We killed 4,000, we lost 2,000. So that came out pretty well in our favor. You can see most of their casualties was light infantry, which is the exact unit that we are really strong against. They actually had a decent number of archers, but because their archers are pretty good against all the units that we brought, you know, they didn't really take too many casualties. So let's also sweep back in here. Come on now, guys, don't abandon the siege. This is one thing that I'm a little bit worried about the AI sometimes. When they command a siege, sometimes they'll, like, abandon it. I haven't really seen them do it too much in Imperator Rome, but they do it a decent amount in EU4 and stuff like that. So we've got one more fort to siege down. We'll get to work on that pretty soon. Pretty happy with the expansion that we've managed to achieve in this episode. Now, we don't actually technically have claims on this province, but because we're at war with this person, I'm going to take the opportunity to kind of sneakily grab it in this war. We only have to wait for a single fort to siege down. I'm going to just go up to 5 speed while we wait for that to happen. So let's see here. A question of sanity. So I can the curious person how it's con. So I can gain popularity from somebody questioning my sanity. Or I can find out who wrote it. I'll go ahead and take the popularity for now. It's like a haha, nice joke. Find me who wrote this. So we could take some interventions. Let's see if we can cut these troops off with our secondary army. You can see our archers will do a lot of damage to these guys, and we have also auxiliary cavalry flanking, so this should be a pretty powerful and crushing defeat for them. Let's go ahead and see if we can prevent these guys from reinforcing this battle over here. Let's see here. The spread of corruption. So this is the wanting to change one of the laws in my government event. So Gnaeus Flavius, he is the head of the populist faction, I think, wants to implement a policy that would reduce the corruption of our thing. It's up here somewhere. It's one of these. Let me see if I can find it. What is it called? Lex Cassius de Senatus. Here it is. So for now, we could either abolish corruption laws, which makes it easier to bribe people, or we could go ahead and make it so that monthly corruption ticks down. I already have a thing that makes corruption tick down. But even more, this would make endorsing these factions a little bit harder. And that's something I like to do quite a bit. But on the other hand, completely obliterating corruption is really nice, and it would also free me up to switch this if I wanted to. So I'm going to go ahead and take that. Can't quite get there, that's okay. Okay, we have 900 days to finish this siege, and that's another mechanic in Imperator Rome, is that if a war stalemates, and there's no contest of the war goal, you kind of get a white peace enforced. That's why I really want this to tick through. Ah, we got a new ruler. A new ruler has been elected who is a 10-8-8-6. Awesome. And the military faction took over control of the country. This is interesting. Let's go ahead and do the Blessing of Ceres again, so we get extra population growth. Population growth works on a per province basis. You can see here we are growing 0.52% per month. Very, very cool. We also have a title unassigned. We have no censor in our government. We're going to make Quintus Fabius Gerges. Actually, do I have anyone? I could put this guy, but this guy has better skill. What are your other skills? He's actually better in a civic role. So what about you? You as well. You're pretty good at this, and you're also in a scorned family, so let's get you in there, and this will reduce the Senate influence. I'm not sure what that does. I think that makes our own party work a little bit better. Come on now, flip the siege, please. Do I have to assault this? I really don't want to. Come on now. There we go. So now we can go ahead and go through and individually piece out each person in this war. So the first thing I'm going to talk to is Apulia. I mean, I could negotiate for all of this territory from one person. However, if I negotiate individually, kind of like EU4, I can extract gold out of each of them individually. And we are going to just banish for the reduced aggressive expansion. And then similarly, we can sue for peace for these guys. We can take all of their territory, take all of their money, and then aggressive expansion reduction. And then we can talk to these guys, and we can sue for peace once again, take these two provinces, take all of their money, and then reduce our aggressive expansion by banishing the families of class. And now we have expanded Rome quite aggressively, I would say. In fact, we're up to 806 population now, and it's time to start having a look at administrating the realm a little bit more efficiently. So if we take a look at the population of this province, it's kind of pretty heavy on the citizen side of things, which is kind of where we want it to be. What I'm going to do is I'm going to spend a significant amount of my oratory power here to promote freemen in the capital province to citizens, because we've expanded so much, a lot of our population ratio of citizens to everyone else has gone down, which means our research efficiency has come down. And so I want to start buying up citizens to kind of bring that back up. I'm going to do that first and foremost in the capital, because freemen are the most effective in the capital. Because they get an extra 25% bonus to their output when they're in the capital. Although some of these guys are a little bit upset. Some of them are Jewish. We're going to leave the Jewish characters here for now. That's fine. I don't want to spend the points to convert them because they're not that unhappy. And we're going to switch the governor policy to civilization effort. Why do you ask? That's so we can convert these tribesmen pops who aren't really that useful. They produce some base tax and produce some manpower, but I'd much rather if they were either freemen or if they were slaves, which is what this policy will turn them into. And freemen I can promote up into citizens if I want. So you can see we kind of brought our research efficiency back up to a more acceptable level, and we'll kind of just spend a few points around the capital to keep bringing that up. Now, citizens are kind of crappy for income, but they're really good for research. So that's one of the downsides. Now, we can build another building in our capital. One of the things we could build is all the slaves in the capital are actually pretty happy for now, so I don't think we really need to build any granaries, which mostly increases the happiness of slaves. It also gives you a little bit of population growth. We could go for markets. Markets give you extra income and also increase the local civilization level. And in fact, we probably don't need that many training camps anymore because we're not getting a whole lot of manpower from this area. So I think what I would do is I would destroy 2 of these training camps. I would build 2 marketplaces and a fortress in here to make my capital a little bit more secure. So we brought our technology ratio up a little bit to make sure that we're not falling too far behind in technology, and we've conquered 2 different, we've been in 2 different wars. Now we still have some claims left. I don't think I have claims on these guys, no, but I do have claims over here on these areas. So that's probably what we'll tackle next episode. Sort of expand Rome out and turn it into a superpower. Now remember, I think we're only like 15 years into this game or something. It might even be less. I can't remember what the start year is, but we're doing really, really well so far. We have significantly expanded Rome, and we will continue to do so. So I hope you guys are enjoying this preview series. Please remember to subscribe if you want to see more videos from me. Remember to leave a like if you want to directly support my channel, and remember to leave a comment if you want to give me your feedback. Other than that, I want to say I love you all very much, and I will see you guys next time. Bye bye.